In this video, I'm going to show you how to start and grow a business from scratch as someone who has no money or no experience online. So the business model in question is a service-based or consulting business. And this is basically where we find a group of people or a niche, we find a problem that they share, we then go out to find information that would solve this problem to create a solution. That is the nature of this business model, is we're adding value to people's lives, to a group of people, by solving a problem, by applying information. Now there's three different ways that we can apply this information. The first one is a done-for-you model, where you're doing the work for them and you're applying the information to the problem on their behalf. The second one is a done-with-you approach, where you coach them and you work with them, where you and the client apply information. And the third model is do-it-yourself, where you actually teach information and the client does all of the work. So there's three models. So there's 42 steps to build one of these businesses to facilitate the need you have for financial freedom. There's also 6 phases. The purpose of this video is to give you an overall roadmap and show you a high-level view of every single step you have to take in excruciating detail and order in order for you to become successful. So what I've done is I've mapped out 42 steps that if you follow, you will become successful. These are foolproof, fail-proof steps. So let's get into it. So phase 1 is basically foundations. So the first thing we need to do, the first phase of the 6 phases, is your foundations. And where do we start? What is the first thing that we need to do to start to build one of these businesses? Well, we start at the end by defining your goal. So we need to figure out what you want. So the first step to becoming successful is figuring out that you actually want to be successful in the first place. So what does this look like for you? The second thing we have to do is pick a niche. And so this is pretty straightforward. What we need to do is find a group of people that we're interested in and passionate about that we can actually help solve a problem. The third stage is to research the niche. And so what we actually need to do here is understand this niche in excruciating detail. We need to be able to write a day in their diary and understand them better than we know ourselves because, well, you're going to be working with these people for the next 10 years. So the whole purpose of our research is for step 4, which is to find and validate a problem. And so what we're looking to actually do here is basically find a problem that we can solve for these people. And so by asking them lots of questions and consuming the content they consume and immersing ourselves in their lives, we should be able to find painful problems that they have. Once we find these painful problems, we have leverage. We have something we can actually add value through. So once you found a problem that the niche shares, the next thing to do is pick your model. So I don't mean supermodel. That was a fucking awful joke. So are you going to help solve this problem with this niche by doing the work for them, by doing the work with them, or teaching them to do the work? You need to pick one of those 3 models, and that's that. So number 6 is create your offer. So once you've picked your model and once you've found the problem, you need to craft an offer around this. So an offer is basically a way of packaging your service where we basically promise a specific outcome. And so what you're offering to this niche to solve this problem is basically a solution, and you're going to tell them, exactly what you're going to do, if you're going to have a guarantee, all of this good stuff. You need to package up what you do into a nice, concise message to actually convince people to buy from you. Think of an offer like a sales argument. Why should someone actually purchase from you or give you the light of day? So once you've got your offer and once that thing is in place, the next thing is to price your service. So step number 7 is to decide, what are you going to charge? So if you're doing done with you or done for you, maybe you charge monthly. If you're doing do it yourself and you're teaching it, maybe you charge a one-off fee. But you need to decide what is a fair price. If you're wondering what to charge, just ask yourself, what do I feel comfortable charging? And what do I have conviction in selling? The best price is the one that you think is fair and the one that you have confidence in. So once we've defined the price and once we've got the offer, we need to just do some basic company setup. So basic company setup is where we're basically incorporating the business, using an LLC or a limited company or whatever your country determines. We're also setting up a basic website like a funnel. You're configuring your social profiles as well so that people know where to find you. They can see that you're actually a professional, you know what you're doing. And then the other thing you're going to do at this point as well is you're going to set up like an email through like Google Workspace and stuff like that. But this is just the basic setup so people can actually find you and see that you exist. Now, once we've done the basic company setup, we want to do the financial setup. So financial setup basically revolves around creating bank accounts, registering for Stripe so we can actually we can actually process payments, or Square. You can register for a software called PayFunnel so you can take payments. You can use Go Cardless. You need bank accounts. You need places to transact money. Otherwise, you don't have a business. So that's basically phase 1 in a nutshell. Pick what you want. Find a group of people you're interested in. Do a lot of research into that group of people. Find a problem they have. Pick what model you're going to choose. Create an offer around the problem. Decide what you're going to charge. Set your company up and set your finances up. So phase 2, once we've set the foundations, is all about your mind. So this is really very, very important piece of the puzzle here. You need to get your mindset straight. And there's really, 5 steps to actually doing this. So the 10th step to this entire process is define he who can. Now you might be thinking, what the hell does that mean? But let me explain. So what you need to do, or she, you need to define who do you need to become to achieve what you want to achieve? And so you need to go and look at other successful entrepreneurs who have hit your goal and ask yourselves, what do they look like? Not physically, but how do they behave? How do they think? What belief systems do they have? And if you're wondering how to define this, well, it comes down to 3 things in the next steps. In order for you to figure out who you need to become to achieve what you want to achieve, you can kind of bucket your identity and yourself into 3 categories. So you need to ask yourself, what belief systems do I have that I need to change? What parts of my identity do I have that I need to change? And what traits do I have that do I need to change? You need to change, because if you were the person that could achieve success, you would have already done it. And so the catalyst for your business growth and success is changing yourself. And so you need to ask yourself, what limiting beliefs do I have that are holding me back? What parts of my identity are holding me back? And what traits do I have that are holding me back? For example, you could be really impatient. That's not going to wash if you want to have a successful business. Same thing, you might believe that money doesn't grow on trees and business people are scammers. If you believe that, you're never going to figure it out. So you need to change these things, and that's how you become he who can. So the next thing you have to do is understand that something's got to give. And step number 14 is to make sacrifices. Because what we need to do is, in order for you to start this business and become successful, a business is very hungry for your time and energy. And the less time and energy you have to give the business, the less successful you'll become. And so what we're looking to do is find everything that you're doing in your life that isn't going to grow the business and get rid of it. So all the social media platforms you use, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of these things, if you've got like random hobbies that you do, they've got to go. Like everything has to be sacrificed and thrown on the fire. And the more stuff you get rid of, the more time and energy you can put into the business. If you're not willing to make sacrifices, you might as well just not even try. If you're not willing to give up video games or junk food or that random hour that you spend doing something stupid on Saturday afternoon, then there's no point in trying to start this business. You have to sacrifice. And so that's phase 2, it's your mind. Who do you have to become to achieve what you want to achieve? What belief systems, identities, and traits does this person have so you can step into them? And what do you need to get rid of in your life to become more successful? Once you've got your foundation set and once you've got your mind in the right space, now you actually need to learn how to solve the problem that you've set out to solve. So in foundations at the beginning, what you're doing is you're picking a problem that a niche has, but the problem is right now you don't know how to solve that problem. You've got no idea, you've just picked a problem that they've got. So what we actually need to do in phase 3 is learn how to solve this problem so we can create value. And there's these steps to do this. So what we're going to be doing in step 15 is extremely heavy research into the problem that you want to solve. So for example, if you pick gym owners and you want to solve the problem of membership retention, then you're going to spend the next month of your life doing nothing but researching membership retention. Step 16, in order to actually develop expertise, is interviews. So what this basically entails is finding people who have solved this problem, people who have actually done it, and interviewing them. Whether you have to pay them, whether you have to beg them, whatever you have to do to get on a call with people that have solved this problem, you're gonna have to do it to solve it. Step 17 is kind of shameless, right? And this is where we're going to copy competitors. So basically, your competitors have probably already figured this thing out. So you're going into a market with other successful businesses that you're competing with, and that means they know how to solve this thing. And so you should be able to observe what they're doing and take what they're doing and put it into your business to become successful. It's shameless, but it works. Step number 18 is a bit of a different one. This is basically where we apply disciplines. So applying disciplines, this basically means taking your understanding of the world in different pockets of reality like physics, biology, chemistry, maths, music, etc., and seeing what rules of these disciplines apply to your problem. And so for example, if you know how natural selection works in biology and you're teaching client acquisition, you could find a way to integrate that understanding of the world into the solution that you're actually providing. So all of these things that you're doing, all of these steps, you just need to figure the problem out. And so you can't really move on until you've actually figured out how to solve this problem for your niche. And so that's step number 19. And then step number 20 is critical thinking. So what we need to learn to do is learn how to think critically. Now, if you're wondering what this means, critical basically means just seek and find the truth. And obviously thinking is just how we organize our brains in the world and how we think. So what's gonna happen as you do these things is you're gonna get a lot of information about how to solve this problem. And critical thinking is basically how you organize your thinking and look through information to see what is actually true and correct. And so you have to learn to do it. And so that's phase 3. You actually need to just become an expert. So once you've got your foundations, once you've got your mindset, and once you've got an expertise, now we can actually start putting some rubber to the road, so to speak. And so phase 4 is sales. So there's really quite a few steps that we have to learn to do to sell. So the first thing is we actually have to understand the fundamentals of sales. So this is where you're learning and trying to figure out how to sell. So what is a sale? Why does it happen? How do we convert people? How do we excite people? You need to understand the fundamentals of sales. So the 22nd step to this entire process is watch calls. So there's lots and lots of people on YouTube who actually upload their live high-ticket sales calls, closing done-for-you clients or closing marketing clients or closing coaching clients or closing teaching clients, right? And so you can watch these calls on YouTube so you can understand how the sales process actually works and what it looks like. So the next two steps, you're gonna write your script. So a script is basically broken into two different stages. So you need to write what is called a line of questioning and a pitch. So a line of questioning is basically a method of interrogation where what you're doing is you're taking a prospect and you're taking them through a line of questioning that lines their brain up and primes them for a sale and a decision. And then the pitch itself is how you actually present what you do and the offer of what you do in a compelling, concise, and manner that has conviction so you can actually convince people to buy. And if you've got these two things, then you basically have a script. And that's what you have to do in steps 23 and 24. So this one's pretty straightforward. It doesn't matter how good your line of questioning is and how good your pitch is and how good your offer is. People are going to tell you they want to think about it, or they don't have the money, or they need to speak to their wife. Your job is to figure out how to overcome those objections. So step 26 is learning how to take payments. So we need to actually figure out, like, okay, well, if we actually close someone, like, what's the process behind that? What script do we use to take payments? What are we charging? Are we doing payment plans? What payment processor are we using? Do you have a process and a system to actually collect money? So number 27 is onboarding. So once you've actually figured out how to handle objections and take payments, you need to have a system and a process for client onboarding. And so this is basically, do you send them an email? Do you give them a funnel? How do you transfer the information the client needs to know to actually come on board as a client so you can deliver results and get them what they want? So number 28, part of the onboarding process, is going to be contract. So what you need to learn how to do here is write a legal agreement that basically explains the deliverables of your offering and all the legal jargon that comes with that. There's loads of templates online and YouTube videos on this that you can find. And so number 29 is basically to do practice or role play, as it's known in the sales world, right? So this is basically where you've got this sort of A to Z sales process that takes someone who's a complete stranger and converts them into a paying client, in theory. You know how to question them, pitch them, handle their objections, take their payments, onboard them, get them to sign stuff. Now you need to practice it. So you're going to find friends or people in the same space as you and role play out the script, role play out the questions, role play out the pitch, and refine it and do it over and over again until it's second nature and basically like riding a bike. And so that's phase 4, sales. We need to learn how to sell if we want people to actually buy from us. So phase 5 is my personal favorite because this is where we actually start making money. So phase 5 is appointments. So in order for you to make money with this business model, you need to get sales. But in order to get sales, you need to actually talk to people. And so what we're doing in phase 5 is learning how to do what we call appointment setting. And this is basically where you're reaching out to people in your niche who have the problem you can solve. You're presenting your offer to them and you're encouraging them to schedule a time to talk to you so you can sell them and close them and use your expertise to solve the problem for them. And so we need to learn the steps to do this. And you'll see I've got number 35 highlighted here. This is the most important step in the entire process. Step number 30 to the overall process of building one of these businesses is, once again, similar to sales, you need to learn, I'm just going to put fund, you need to learn the fundamentals of appointment booking. You need to understand why people book appointments. You need to understand the nature of calendars and time and how this all works. You need to get to grasp with the fundamentals. So step number 31 is where you're going to decide what method you're going to use to book appointments. And so really we've got 3 methods. I'm going to put a question mark here. You need to decide, do you want to use DM, do you want to use email, or do you want to use call? And so we've got 3 different ways to reach out to people and get appointments. And the method you pick is going to be entirely dependent on your niche. So if you find that phone numbers are easy to find in your niche, then you should do cold calls. If you find that emails are very easy to find, you should do cold emails. And if you find that their social profiles are easy to find, then you're going to do DMs. So DM is where you'd actually send someone a message on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, trying to pitch your service and get them to book. Email is where you're going to send them an email saying like, I found you online, I want to sell you this thing, in a little bit more of a persuasive manner than that. And then calling is where you just call them up and say, hey, this is me with my company and I want to sell you this thing. And so with these 3 platforms, you need to figure out which one of these is going to be best and most appropriate for your niche, and then pick one. It could be cold calling, become an absolute demon and expert in that thing. So step number 32 is to build content. So this is pretty straightforward and it's kind of self-explanatory. This is where you're going to build a content machine. And this is where you're going to make videos and posts and blog posts or whatever medium you have to use to entertain your niche and get their attention. You need to create content and build a system around that so you can attract them. It's going to take a year or 2 before this starts to pay dividends, but you're not going to want to make cold calls for the rest of your life. So eventually you can make videos like these, like I'm doing now, and get business through that. So step number 33 is to set up something called Calendly. So Calendly is basically a software that allows you to book these appointments. And I don't think I've spelled it correctly, but Calendly, there's an LY at the end there. Calendly, this is basically a software that allows you to schedule appointments. There's a free version, and this means you can send a link to someone, through a DM or a cold call or piece of content, and they can actually use that link to schedule a time into your calendar to talk to you. Without this does not work. So step 34 is the boring part of appointment booking, right? And this is basically sheets and systems. So what this basically means is you need to have spreadsheets, you need to have systems, you need to have automations, you need to finely tune all of your systems to make sure that they run efficiently and properly. And then step number 35, I'm actually going to write this one in green because this is incredibly important. Step number 35 is this is gonna be the ultimate test of your mettle, and it's gonna be the ultimate test of how successful you really are. If you get 35 right, everything else, you'll be fine. Volume. So volume is step 35, and I don't mean volume in terms of how loud the music is in your car. Volume basically means how much of this do you do? There is a direct correlation, cause and effect, between how many calls you make, how many emails you send, how many DMs you send, how much content you make, and the quality of all of these things between how much of it you do and how successful you become. You want to become an absolute animal at doing as much of this as humanly possible. Because once you've got your foundations right, once your mind and your paradigm are in the right place, once you're an expert at what you do, once you know how to sell, well, now all you have to do is get as many appointments as possible and you will print money. And there's a direct relationship between how much of this you do and how much money you're going to make. And so that's phase 5, getting appointments and talking to prospects to actually close them into your expertise. So phase 6 is a little bit boring, to be honest, and this is operations. Well, it would help if I could spell operations, so I'm just going to put ops. Okay, so ops stands for operations, and this is basically where, now that you've got a machine that's printing money and making money, you need to know how to manage it and make sure that it doesn't break. And so think of operations as a set of responsibilities that you as a business owner have to the business that keep it healthy and alive. And so the first step we have to take in our operations is a finance tracker. And so, whether you like it or not, you're going to need to actually track the amount of money you're making and spending, because if you don't do this, then when the government comes knocking for you to pay your tax, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. So you need to track your finances, keep some spreadsheets, use QuickBooks if you have to, or one of these other softwares, and that's what you need to do in step 36. So step 37, and this is a little bit more advanced, but I wanted to include this, is to find an accountant. So you probably won't need an accountant unless you're making 3K a month or more, because if you're not making any money, there's no point in getting an accountant. But the second you start making even somewhat decent money or serious money, you need to find an accountant, because they will make your life 10 times easier. They will save you so much money in tax. And if you don't have one, you're going to end up going bold like I nearly did and actually am. So we can cut that bit out. Yeah, so there's a bold joke for you. Took me 38 steps to get there. So number 38 is support system. So this is where it starts to become important, because now that you've got clients from your appointments and your sales and your expertise, you need to make sure you're supporting them properly. So you need to set up an email support system or a WhatsApp support system. Maybe you use a school group, maybe you have coaching calls. You need to figure out, how am I going to support these people and answer their questions and help them with billing queries. This is a very important thing to the client experience. So step 39 is a project management system. So project management, you won't really need this right now, but eventually you're going to need to have one of these. This is basically, how do you manage the initiatives in your business? So if you have to build a new product or make a new hire, or if you have to make a new piece of content or something, you have these projects, things to complete, basically macro to-do items. And if you don't have a tool or a system to manage these projects, like Trello, for example, it's a pretty simple solution, you're going to end up getting confused and lost. So what you'll notice here is really what we're doing in these later stages is just building systems to manage things. So we got a support system, we've got a financial system, we've got a project management system, and then the last thing we need in terms of systems is a communication system. And this is basically a place where you can talk to your team or your clients, or sometimes even yourself if you're insane. But I would recommend you use Slack to do this. It won't be imperative until you've got a couple of team members, but eventually you're going to want to have one. So step 41 is workflows. And this is basically where you want to try and start writing down and defining what you do. And so, the whole process of building your foundations, making your mindset straight, becoming an expert, selling, getting appointments, building operations, there's a lot of work to do. And you're going to find that you keep repeating the same tasks over and over and over again. And what you want to learn to do is extract those tasks into Google Docs or Notes or Trello or a project management system. So when you come to hire someone, they can do the thing for you, and eventually you can start removing yourself from the business. The point of operations is to have this thing running as smoothly, profitably, and efficiently as possible. And part of that process is removing you from it. And that's where workflows come in handy. They're also known as standard operating procedures in the space that we're in. And then step number 42, finally, last but not least, is hire a VA. So a VA stands for a virtual assistant, and you can hire one of these for anywhere between $3 to $10 an hour, depending on how mean you feel, right? But in all seriousness, you can hire someone to basically run the tasks that are trivial for you. And so if you build your workflows and your systems and your standard operating procedures properly, you can bring someone in with half a brain to run them for you. And that way you fire yourself and remove yourself. So these are the 42 steps that you must follow to build a business. If you do these and you follow these properly, you will become financially free. You'll have location freedom, time freedom, and you'll have a business that facilitates a lifestyle you want to live and basically makes you happy and more fulfilled. Remember, there's 6 different phases to making this happen, and these steps need to be followed in order. You can't just jump to, step 32 if you haven't done step 5. And I know this is true because not only have I done this myself, but at this point I've taught more than 1,000 people, or actually at this point more than 2,000 people, how to do this, follow this process, and get to that point where they're making as much money as their heart could possibly desire. And so that's basically how it works. Bye.